Judd, we know that the Biden border crisis has forced Border Patrol agents to detail and retask agents from the northern border to the southern border to deal with the massive influx of people there. And you've stated recently that agents on the northern border were asked to deploy to Florida to deal with the surge of illegal migrants there as well. Your testimony also referenced a mere 450 agents on duty at any one time to cover this 5,500 miles of land and water border with Canada. Can you describe the impact of the administration's robbing Peter to pay Paul approach to border security, and then what that's done to the jobs and circumstances at the north?
Certainly. When you currently look at the staffing levels right now, we have not only are we not deploying as many agents to the field as what we have in the past, we also have a staffing model that is just completely and totally antiquated. When you look at, we have one supervisor to every 2 agents. That's just not, it's not something that we can actually deploy agents to the field to actually do the job. Then on top of that, when you pull more agents out of the field, what it does is it requires agents to patrol an area that is just not patrollable with just one single agent. Again, you cannot control an area if you are deploying an agent to patrol for every 30 miles. That agent is responsible for 30 miles. It's impossible to do that, and it's impossible to detect, and it's impossible to quantify how many people are crossing when you do that.
So I fully agree that we need to not rob resources from a particular place in the border to go elsewhere, but then the ranking member's opening statement suggested that the issue is Republicans won't support enough resources. But it seems to me that is, in general, with respect to the open borders policy the Biden administration has pursued, the way they've converted everything into processing people into the country faster, if we apply more resources in general, we're just going to process people into the country faster, and it's not going to secure the border or make it more orderly. What do you say about that?
No, that's absolutely correct. And when you look at what he's proposed, 300 new agents, that's a drop in the bucket, especially when we're losing agents at a 6.8% attrition rate right now. Again, it's just absolutely unsustainable. We cannot send agents from the northern border to the southwest border and expect to keep control of the northern border.
Thank you, Mr. Judd. Mr. Arthur, you made reference to what you referred to as visa-free travel for Mexican nationals. What was interesting to me to learn is, notwithstanding the flood that we have across the southwest border, about which we've done lots of hearings and heard lots of information, that the largest group of folks who are encountered at the northern border now are Mexican nationals. And you talked about all the different countries. You said visa-free travel. Explain that a bit. How does that work? Why are people from Mexico entering through the northern border from Canada?
Yeah, so we actually have visa-free travel into the United States from a number of countries all around the world. And as most of you know, if you travel on a U.S. passport, you generally don't need to get a visa to go to most countries. Back in 2016, Mexico and the Trudeau government reached an agreement that would allow Mexicans to enter Canada without first obtaining a visa to go to that country. And looking at these numbers, looking at the trends, it would appear that a number of those individuals are exploiting, a number of Mexican nationals are exploiting that loophole. I think 89.7% of all Mexican nationals were expelled under Title 42, 8.25 at the southwest border. At the northern border, it was about 8.25%. So the odds are a lot better getting into the United States if you come over that way, even if you get caught.
So presumably they get on a plane in Mexico, fly to maybe Montreal, and then come across the border. Is that right?
Yeah. In fact, in my written testimony, I note the fact that there are 3 nonstop flights to Montreal every day, YUL, from Mexico City.
You know, recently in that case decided in the Florida United States District Court, Judge Wetherill said that Biden administration migrant release policies were, quote, akin to posting a flashing "come in, we're open" sign on the southern border. Is the same effect being had on the northern border?
Well, it's interesting because at the northern border, we don't know what the release numbers are up there. CBP only quantifies them, but given how broad the border is, given how few agents that we have, the opportunities to enter illegally and not be caught are much higher. I'd love to know what the got-away numbers are at the northern border. They're not published.
One of the interesting figures in the staff's memo was this fact that so far in fiscal year 2023, the Office of Field Operations that operates ports of entry has encountered 176 individuals in the terrorist screening data set at the northern border. How about that? That seems to me to be, I mean, that's even more than encountered on the southern border, and I understand that's sort of a repeating circumstance, but that seems, you don't need that many terrorists to enter the country to cause spectacular harm.
No, and in fact, in my written testimony, I talk about one such foreign national who entered the United States, Ahmed Rassam. His plan was to blow up Los Angeles International Airport in the millennium. He was apprehended December 14th, 1999. But yeah, it is interesting because a great deal of attention has been paid to people on the terrorist watch list being apprehended at the southwest border. When you look at those northern border port numbers, they're sky high. That is definitely a source of concern. Again, Canada and the United States, good partners. Canada does a very good job, certainly today, defending itself and defending the United States from terrorist incursion. We can't make it any easier for terrorists to get into this country.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. And I now recognize the ranking member, Mr. Ivey, for 5 minutes of